Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Angular Space TV. We have a super exciting topic and an especially exciting guest today. But before we start, turns out that we also have some exciting news super breaking news that landed like 5 minutes before I started the live stream. Is that now we're a big boy channel now, and we have a sponsor and a big sponsor at that. CodeRabbit is going to sponsor our live streams, this one and future ones. So I know CodeRabbit for quite a while. I also know it through Santosh, who also has been a guest in a past episode. Go take a look at it if you are curious about Angular and open source stuff going on. I'm super thankful for CodeRabbit for sponsoring our live streams. Maybe in the future I will cover some stuff related to that. If you don't know CodeRabbit, it's a tool that helps you do better AI code reviews. So instead of doing stuff locally and going like code, please go and review the same code that you have written. Instead, you can use CodeRabbit that can hook inside different part of your software development lifecycle and review code, find issues like run commands and so on demand. So yeah, we have a sponsor now, and I'm super happy to share that with you guys. Waiting for the comments saying that we're sellouts now and stuff like that. Joking, of course. And I see that we already have a lot of people in the chat. We have Michael, we have Logan already. A lot of folks hang around. Hey, hello there, welcome to the live stream. So yeah, today we're going to talk about testing in Angular, testing our Angular apps, testing the AI, what do they call it nowadays, slop, that coding agents are so happy to produce, and it can be so overwhelming for us. And I think there is no one right now, in my opinion, that can be a better guide on that than our guest today. Please, everyone, welcome Younes Jaaidi. Hey, Younes, welcome to our show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Such a pleasure.
I'm super happy to have you. You know how long we've been trying to do this.
Yeah, sorry for that.
No, it's okay. I have my fair share of missing messages and so on. I think everyone nowadays is so stressed, so busy. I love to blame AI for that.
I mean, yeah, AI and kids are really make things harder.
So to be honest, I'm like as we chatted before starting this, I mentioned I'm not super skilled at writing tests or reasoning about tests because I don't have that much experience in that particular department. And to be honest, actually, you have been my source of news about testing, about what are like good practices, just at least to sort of keep me up on every point that is necessary. So that's why at one point I was like, yeah, I should invite Younes and have him teach everyone more about testing in Angular, because I think Angular has been a tough ride in terms of testing. There have been so many changes during the years, right? We had Karma for a while, it was stable, everyone was about that. Then there were experiments, there was the web test runner, there was Jest, there was a lot of things that we could use. And now it's VTest, right? And
long story, yeah.
Yeah. So what should people do? Is there expert advice on this? Yeah.
Just stop testing, use CodeRabbit and let it review code, and that's it. And the review passes. And
yeah, but that's not code review. I don't know if CodeRabbit is capable of also tests and coming back and fix stuff.
What? Yeah. So that's an interesting topic.
We gotta have input.
We can get back to that. Like, how do like agents help with testing? And I don't know, like, what's the, if people could I'm looking at the comments, and what's the common pain points that they want to share with us with testing. But one of the biggest pain points, in my opinion, that kind of discourage people from testing a little bit with in the front end, and more specifically and with Angular, is that usually in the back end when you test something, you usually have like a pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
not all the time, but like you have like a direct input and a direct output. You're just
Right.
calling a function and it's returning something most of the
Yeah.
time.
It's not a pure function, but it's kind of a pure function when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
mock everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can still check the side effects are pretty controlled, like the what we call the indirect inputs and indirect outputs, which are
Right.
like the database or whatever. But in the front end, you just mount a component, and then there are like hundreds of interactions all over the page because
Right.
you're creating a DOM element and you're setting the framework is setting some attributes and everything. And that makes testing a little bit harder. And for Angular, what made things a little bit more like trickier is that the test bed as it was initially designed is going too much into the implementation details. And so you have to, like, you want to test some group of components, so you mount a component, and then what do? So you use testbed, create component, but then nothing happens because you have to call detect changes, and you have to trigger the synchronization, but when and how many times, and then you have to interact with the DOM, then you have to trigger the events, but how do you trigger an event? And that was like the hardest part, where the test bed was providing a really low level API that wasn't enough. And then we had like different tools that came up later. But I think that's also one of the technical pain points.
For me, it was like a bit of a confusion when I started like writing tests for Angular a lot of years ago. And initially, I would write a test, then I have an error in the test somehow, and I'm spending like an hour trying to fix it. And I'm like, wait, I am writing this to catch errors in my code, but now I am actually like debugging my tests. And sometimes, and because there's also this mental thing when you spend a lot of time like debugging the tests,
yes,
then the tests say, okay, your application is fine, and you're like, but is it? Are the tests like did it work okay? I spent a lot of time, maybe I did something wrong there, because it seems to be like this complex thing, but it really needs to be simpler.
Yeah, and that's a really problematic pain point. So there are two dangers in the testing strategies. First danger is like to go without tests, and so you will have to manually debug and fix encode and fix. Or what can really slow down the team also is to not have like a good testing strategy or the right tools so that the tests are meaningful and bring you enough confidence. Kent Beck from Extreme Programming, like he wrote this thing a few years ago, and he called that test desiderata, and it's like 10 properties that you want on your test, but you cannot have all of them. You have to find the right balance. And one of them is that test should be inspirational. It means that like they bring you confidence. That if the test is passing, the code is passing. If the code is working. If your tests are passing and you still have to manually test things, then you have a problem. Your tests are not bringing enough confidence. And on the other hand, if your tests are when anytime you refactor something and you have lots of tests that break, that's also another problem called overspecification, which means that your tests are too coupled to implementation details. So you change something, you change the structure, you do not change the behavior, but the tests are broken because they're too coupled to the
But is that only a problem with like unit tests? For example, if you think about end-to-end tests, can you also like go overboard and couple them too with the implementation?
Yes, definitely less, but that happens a lot. So why? Well, the problem with end-to-end tests is that if you have like really real end-to-end tests, there's less risk, but then you can still have some coupling because it depends on how you query the DOM. Like, are you checking that when I click on this button, it opens this page, and in this page, under this element, there's this form, and in this form, there's an input. The problem is that if you move that input, is that a problem or not? Is that a behavioral change or not, or a structural change? So that's one of the problems. Or if you start checking like the query parameters in the URL, that change, that's an implementation detail that you're coupling yourself to. If you start setting stuff directly in the local storage, or if you start doing forgot the exact term for that, but you have like end-to-end test like with a limited scope, like isolated from the backend. And that's the biggest problem, is that when you start mocking or stubbing the HTTP level, so that's a big specific, that's over specification there, because you're hard coding requests and responses that could
and there is no guarantee. And now you open up new work, because if the backend changes, you have to also update like your stubs and stuff.
Exactly,
like that.
Exactly. And that's one of the pain points. That's why there are like different test doubles. And that's why I've been advocating for some time for like using fakes instead. And fakes are they're not like, the tests are not like stubbing directly saying I'm expecting this, I'm responding with this. They're like mimicking the behavior of the backend. And sometimes in some companies and teams, like you have like the backend team that provides a fake for you. Here's a fake server, just use it. It works almost exactly like the real one. But if you add something in the to-do list and then you call me again later and you ask for the to-do list, it's going to be there. And everything is stored in memory, for example. But so that's the problem. But of course, that's exactly so about test, end-to-end tests, and what I call narrow test. I don't use the word unit test for a reason I can get back to later. The reason, so that's exactly one of the properties that you want. You want the end. Like one amazing thing about end-to-end tests is that like they really bring you confidence. Because when it's passing, you're pretty confident that it's working. But you lose some other properties, which is like speed, because they're going to be slower. Right. They can be flaky, and they're not precise. So you can have like an end-to-end test that fails, and good luck debugging. Like, is it just a CSS problem, or is it like a Angular problem, or is it the backend that didn't persist the data, or is it just some latency that made the button disappear and it's going to appear a bit later? This is the problem, and this is where you have like to find the real a good balance and a combination of all these tests. And that's why I use the word narrow instead of unit test, because I have like definition for a narrow test, and which is that, because I don't know, like let's do this. How do you define a unit test?
How do I define the unit test?
What is a unit test?
No idea. I define a unit test like in terms of what I ever did with Angular as whatever I did with the framework that was designed for unit tests. So I didn't use if I didn't use stuff like Cypress or Playwright or whatever, then it's unit test.
That's a good definition. I like it. I like it. So the danger with unit test, the term unit test, is that people tend to over narrow their tests. So they're like testing one specific component, method, and things like that, and they tend to mock everything around it. And that creates over specification, because whenever you move things, whenever you refactor things, that's gonna break. It's gonna be painful.
Ever like need this, because the wording that you describe, narrow tests, sounds to me like no, don't do it because it's too specific.
Yes.
So don't do it. So don't do unit tests.
So it depends on what you call a unit test. So the rule of thumb for me is to try to find the biggest narrow test possible, and that's what you have to write. And what is the biggest narrow test? So rule number one, the test should be fast. So it should be less than 100 milliseconds. The reason behind this is that if it's 100 milliseconds, most of the time when you change something, it's going to impact like most of the changes, not all of them. Most of the changes will usually impact something less than 100 tests. Most of the changes. Of course, if you change that utility function that is used everywhere, that's going to impact all the tests. But most of the time, so you're going to have like 100 tests. 100 tests multiplied by 100 milliseconds is around 1 second, because you have multiple cores on your machine and the tests are parallelized. So it's a good feedback loop, and like it's really fast. 1 second, I don't start doing something else, and I keep an eye on my test.
Yeah.
Now so that's the definition number one. Rule number one: tests are fast. Rule number two: isolated and easy to isolate and parallelize. Like you don't have to start a Docker instance of some database, or or think of, because that's the problem with the end-to-end test. You're like, oh wait, if I create a user but there's another user and I have to not use the same data,
especially terrible if you have like multi-tenant setup.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what's going to be really frustrating. So a narrow test is something that doesn't have to care about this. Each test can create its own world and isolated from the rest of the planet. And meaning it can use the file system if it can create a folder that is not impacted by other things. It can even use a database.
Essentially, yes.
Because because now with MongoDB and things like that, you can create like an in-memory database that is very powerful and pops up in a few milliseconds and completely isolated. And the last rule, which is the most important one, is the test should be easily diagnosable by anyone in the team. So if the test fails,
that's the hardest one.
It's the hardest one. So if the test fails, anyone in the team can debug that pretty much quickly. So for example, if I test a compiler, if I test like a whole Angular compiler, and I give it templates, and I'm testing the output, the test is super fast. If compiler is fast, the test is super fast. It's completely isolated and parallelizable. But for me, that's not a narrow test, because if something goes wrong, good luck debugging, because it's going to be like hundreds of files you will have to go through to understand where the problem comes from.
Yeah.
You see? So the idea is, it's not about the code. It's not. So that's the problem with the term unit test. It doesn't. The unit test. The word unit generally means the behavioral unit you're testing, not the unit of code. But lots of people, including me, the first time was like, oh, a unit of code. Which unit is it? Is it a file? Is it a function? Is it a class? Let's say class. Okay, so that's a unit test. So that's not the problem.
Yeah, I think that's often a problem for software engineers. Like not only about testing, but something like someone would say, let's change something in this module.
Yeah.
By module, anyone can make sense of anything. Like it could mean whatever. And now someone will say, okay, let's split something into modules. And by modules, a business person, a more business-oriented person, they mean like big chunks of features in their apps.
Yeah.
But a developer might be like, okay, module, like not JS module or Angular module, all right, in the past. And then we'll go, okay, this module needs to be officially a module, but like maybe it doesn't need to be that. But it kind of makes sense that we are always biased towards code. We see everything through the code.
Of course.
Because that's where we spend most of the time.
So I totally understand. So, and that's why, testing, and especially TDD, like test-driven development, is important. Is that you start writing your test before your brain gets polluted by implementation details. You're like, when I mount this component and I click on this button, this thing happens. Okay, good. Now, how am I going to implement this? We'll see. Maybe is it going to be one component or three components and one component and one servers, or is it going to be a component and a store that dispatches the information, and then the button is aware that it is disabled? I don't care. My test is there. The behavior is there. That's the cool thing. And the cool thing is that when you do TDD, most of the time, like people are like, yeah, but when I start writing tests, a common question I'm asking myself is, what should I test? Where do you start? And the answer is, ask your product manager or owner or whatever. Ask the business. Because they will tell you what is the behavior that the behavior that they want to add and that they want it to stay there. And they can even tell you which behavior is critical. Like for example, I don't know, like you might have like some button that allows you to edit something, but nobody clicks on that. And so maybe that does not need to be as thoroughly tested as something more critical, and they can give you that information. It's not about like the implementation details, it's about like the business, what's the impact, and the behavior. So the first test should come from like top down, like what's the behavior you want, and then once you have these tests, while you're starting to implement something, you're like, oh, I need, these utility functions where you have to, I don't know, like transform the URL to the path and stuff like that. You're like, oh my God, this is gonna be a headache. So then I'm gonna need a test just for that, because this way I can loop faster just on that little thing. And so that's what in extreme programming, like we call extreme programming, which is a methodology. And I'm gonna dive into it for people who are not familiar with it. And in extreme programming, the rule is, we call that like a developer test. It's a developer that is asking for the behavior. It's just like, I want this function to return the URL or the path from the URL, and that's when you decide to write that test.
In essence, for example, what I did like maybe 7 years ago when I was trying to do unit test on an Angular app, right? Sorry, narrow test.
It's fine.
What I would do, I would go like super overboard with the stuff. I would be like, okay, when this button is clicked, blah, 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 like simulate the click on this button.
Yes.
I expect this handler function to be called. Yes. Then I expect to have called this other function with these arguments. And then I expect, for example, this other pop-up to have appeared or whatever.
Exactly.
So I would test everything there. But that's probably not what I should have done.
Why not?
I don't know.
So
maybe, yeah.
So it depends. Like it's the idea is that we tend to isolate code too much, but isolated code is not very useful. Like you can test, like you can have 10 tests per class, per components, per service, and you can have like 10 services, so you can have 100 tests, and at the end you're not confident at all, and you will have like the test failing all the time, and you have to change the mocks and everything. And you could have like 5 tests that test this whole thing together. That can bring you more confidence. And the test, again, respects the rule of it's easy to diagnose and debug. Like imagine you click on the button, the dialog does not appear. You add 1 log or 2 breakpoints and you know exactly why it happened. So it's the complexity that will drive the zoom, that will tell you, oh, now you have to.
Oh, so I wasn't doing that bad.
No, it's really good. It's really good because this way I don't have to care about how you're popping your dialogue or whatever. It's just there.
Yeah. And now on the like a super specifically Angular question, which I always had an opinionated answer to that, but maybe it's still up for a debate. Often people would say like, oh, you shouldn't touch the DOM at all when writing unit tests.
Yeah.
Which never made sense to me because why would I write tests targeting a component if I don't test what I expect to be the main job of the component, to show UI? Like anywhere else I'm not showing UI. Is the component thing that's actually showing the UI? Why wouldn't I check? Like, why would I only focus on the state of the component class when the state is only a source of what I expect literally to see on the screen?
Yeah.
And I don't know if there are other approaches. Some people would say like, oh, write unit tests for classes, class code, and then your end-to-end tests, for example, will handle everything that you see in the UI.
But that's too much of like a gap between like the end-to-end and the class tests, And so I have like different arguments against that. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So the first one is Angular components being classes is an implementation detail.
All right.
Yeah, tomorrow we could have like a different authoring formats, which is actually a problem in Angular. Like you should not have access to any of the properties except if you You really want to make them public, and again, that will encourage like the imperative approach of like you grab the component instance and you call the method, and you rarely need that. So you really want to test like the don't want to dive into that. And also the other argument is the moment you start instantiating like the component class and you start calling methods on it, who's going to call the lifecycle hooks?
All right.
And John init and everything, and when and what, and you can see a lot of people who are doing class testing started complaining when inject function appeared. Like, if you're writing your test a little bit above, like people call them like component tests or whatever. If you start calling, if you make your test with the UI, well, you just call the test bed. It creates the component. You don't know if it's using inject or not. So that migration happens without any frustration or any effort in terms of testing. So that's again another argument. And finally, I feel that one of the, in terms of confidence, one of the biggest problems that I see in the code and the errors that I have that can really break production all the time is, that tiny little typo of when you hook things together. Oh, I didn't use the right variable in the right binding. Oh, the URL of the API is not the right one. Things like that. And this is the things that, so that's why when you test that the button is there or it's disabled or whatever, you know that everything happens, the synchronization happened and everything. Some people say, oh, but then you're testing the framework. No, I'm not testing the framework. I'm using the framework just like you're using anything available in the language and stuff. So, so that's it. And also, as we will see, and I can show you like that, we can play a little bit with VTest browser mode, for example. It's also very pleasant to see your test running and see your components and interact with them. So that's pretty nice. So you can take screenshots and everything. So, and if you go with end-to-end, well, that's too big of an effort. And just one example of one big problem with the end-to-end test is that you run lots of code, and so of course it's slower. You don't have like the dependency graph that you can have with VTest, for example, where you can say, I changed only this class here or this function here. So just run the tests that are affected. But with end-to-end tests, you have to run all the tests, or you have to do some manual effort to say, oh, when I change this code in this folder, run only these tests, or etc. So that's can be problematic. And that's one of the pain points that people have in their strategy. One of my favorite numbers I've been observing is like this team that didn't have any tests at all. And there's like a big migration and everything. And we brought like a testing strategy there. And what was very interesting is that in 2 or 3 weeks, they have like so many end-to-end tests that it was taking like 30 minutes to run, even with parallelization. And that's really bad feedback. And then you start everything and losing time and wasting time. And in 3 years, this same team has like thousands of narrow tests, with just and VTest, and they all run in like 1 minute 30 or something when you run all of them. So that's also a very important property. Just like imagine in 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, you have like 30 minutes of tests, and in the thousands in years, you can have like something that runs in a few minutes. So does it mean you don't need end-to-end tests at all? No, I don't think so. I think you can still need the end-to-end test, and that's why like the testing pyramid is still valid today.
So about I think the situation with the like testing of the UI and DOM, this kind of false dichotomy that happened was maybe also the code bias, because people would think that, well, with unit tests we are testing the code, and with end-to-end we are testing what's like the end result, and that's why we shouldn't like go to the HTML. But we're not actually testing like if the HTML looks the way that it must look or whatever. We're testing that it wired up in the logic of the app.
Yes.
And I think also maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe I think the thing that you call narrow tests, from my perspective, how I see it, is like, let's have a quick way of checking if the app would kind of work if everything is perfect in the world. And that is, if written well, a good measure of confidence if you are not doing like super hard things with your application. And end-to-end tests, or like wider tests, are more about the things you that are very important to check, but you don't always need to check that sort of thing. You mostly assume that it's there, and if your unit tests kind of are okay, and if you are not doing a big change,
Yeah.
so you would do your end-to-end test. You would kind of do like, if you're adding a new feature, obviously at least one time you will be running your end-to-end tests
Uh,
and the new
it,
ones. And
it depends. So in terms of end-to-end tests, like it will depend a lot on the context. So
yeah,
what's kind of app you're building, how
yeah,
critical things are, and because each test has a cost. That's also a big problem with agents today. We'll cover this a bit later,
yeah,
but one of the big problem with the um, agentic development is that you end up with lots of tests, and that's a problem because that can be slow. It's can be a lot more maintenance, etc. So you have
and they
to be
can be
very,
wrong too.
of course, it's a bigger problem. So that's so the thing with the test, that you have to be very strategic in terms of testing, so that you have like good tests that focus on important. And so the idea of the end-to-end test is that problem with end-to-end test. A lot of people are like, yeah, the end-to-end tests are pretty cheap to implement, but they're very expensive
Yeah,
to maintain. And one of the things is that you will have to handle like the authentication and like keep the session, blah blah blah. Well, like
yeah,
today with Playwright, it's pretty easy to configure, but then you will hit rate limits if you have too many tests with some backends, and you can end up with some flakiness through that. So that's a big problem. You have to be very strategic in terms of end-to-end tests and really focus on like the happy path. So that's the thing about end-to-end test. Like you really try to go with some very precise scenarios and like really narrow, like sorry, and really just one happy path. But for all the edge cases, and that's where end-to-end tests tend to drift,
interesting.
is that you have like the whole, I'm going to go through the whole wizard. Now it's working. Now I'm going to go write another test. I'm going to go through the whole wizard. And at step number
There are
5, I will
too many
just change
possibilities.
one
Yeah,
input, and then and so you have like all the
yeah,
options.
yeah,
So that's Kent Beck again in the test desiderata. He calls this property like composability, is that your tests are composable. So instead of having like 100 end-to-end tests, you can have like one end-to-end test for that happy path. And then you can have like 10 end-to-end tests on that, like, that special toggle at the fifth step of the wizard or
yeah. And
whatever.
you can just like shuffle them around and see
Exactly.
if that
And
works.
you can have
Yeah,
like just on that component, you can just focus on that. So it's pretty
yeah,
fast. You don't
interesting.
run them all the
Yeah,
time. And at the end, so you have like just 6 tests, and they bring you enough confidence that, using this test and the end-to-end test, I'm pretty confident that everything is there. And so that's the balance that the team has to figure out, because have really to consider that all the tests like have a real big cost in terms of. And one last thing also about end-to-end tests is that there are many tests where like you have all these scenarios where I create a user. When I create a user, then I'm going to create a workspace. Then in the workspace, I'm going to create a project, and blah, blah, blah. And you have the scenarios. And today it's getting worse because you have like agents and you have like Playwright MCP that can help you write that pretty quickly. But for each test, you will go through 6 UI steps.
Yeah.
And the moment you have like one button broken at the step number 1, all the tests are broken. So we don't, in terms of diagnostic, you as a human or you as an agent, maybe an agent is watching these videos in the future,
Hopefully.
hopefully. And so you as an agent, the problem that you'll have is that you have 50 tests broken. Super hard to understand what's happening, where the problem comes from. So one of the things that I recommend also in terms of end-to-end tests is that to also narrow them. How do you do that? So for example, in Playwright, you try to, if you have like multiple steps, you follow like the AAA approach, like arrange, act, assert again.
Yeah.
So what you do is that you arrange your tests using APIs.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of using the UI to get to step number 3, you use the API to create the data and put it in some state. So you really call.
So everything is there, and we're now just testing this one view that we're actually interested in.
Exactly. And you open the UI, you interact with it, and then you make your assertion. And then the state of this state of step 3 is good. Now you write another test that tests step 4 by creating putting the backend in the state of the step 3, and then you interact just with the UI. Why is it interesting? The tests are faster because you don't have to go through all steps. They're more precise because if the test fails, if you break something, it's going to break one test, not all of them. So that's a very important property. Like whenever you change something, you have many tests that break. There's a problem in the testing strategy. That's a really interesting code smell to observe. And you can parallelize all these tests, meaning that imagine if you have like a scenario with 10 steps that takes 30 seconds. With this approach, you can really cut it into tinier.
And parallelizing will also be easier in that scenario because we are not doing all the steps, so each one can pretty much run in isolation from each other.
Exactly.
Especially if you have like an in-memory database.
Yeah, that's even faster.
That's a very interesting approach, I believe.
It works pretty well. And the only problem with end-to-end tests when you start doing that and if you share databases is that you'll have to kind of randomize the data. If you don't have like, depends on the app. Like the easiest apps to test an end-to-end test is when you have like a workspace per user. So each user can create their own. Imagine you're testing stack blades, just create a new workspace and you just play with it. And for each test can do whatever it wants. But sometimes it's not. If you're testing like a banking app, it doesn't work like that. You cannot just find upgrades a user and use the backend. So that's enough. So do you want? I don't know if there are any questions in the chat or whatever. But if
I don't think there are questions. I think Logan is saying that Younes is also a source for testing. So
thanks, Logan.
And Michael is apparently enjoying this a lot, saying he's watching live streams like it's Super Bowl.
Cool. On the TV. Cool. So do you want to dive into some code, like, and dive into?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be quite honest. In the past several months, I haven't been doing much Angular. I'm becoming like a full-blown AI developer, but like full-blown in terms of machine learning and
nice.
When I was in college, I guess that's what they say in English. I learned applied math and computer science, and back then I was very interested in machine learning, but I also was very interested in getting a job quickly. So I started doing, I think, PHP or stuff like that. So that was something that I was aware of, that I learned a little bit. I know math, I'm okay with it. But then now today I have the opportunity to also work with it. I also work with Angular, but I definitely didn't have a chance to play around with V-tests, especially given the project that we are working now. So I would love to see some stuff that will surprise me.
Good. So let's check it out. So the first thing that is so there are two things. So I don't know how much, we don't have that much time, but we can quickly dive into this, and I want to show you also something about like AI assisted test driven development.
I would love to see both.
So let's do some
wanna share the
some
screen?
V-test. Yeah, I'll share it right now.
Let's switch.
And okay. So let me put my apron.
Okay.
We can cook properly.
Nice. I also have an apron, but at home.
I'm
in
bring
the
it.
office now.
You need one. I always need an. You always need.
I also
an
love
apron
cooking.
Yeah.
You
can have like a session on food next time, or like
we
can have like these calls like where we're cooking and we're chatting at the same time.
You know what? We absolutely should do that.
And definitely.
I think.
And that would be nice. Okay, good. Yeah. So here, let me zoom in a little bit. We'll see what's happening. So yeah, this could be okay. So here I have like so I have this recipe search component, and I don't know how it is implemented. So that's the interesting thing. I don't want to care about how it works internally. So it's just a black box. So so you can imagine this as a whole page, and so what so typically I wouldn't, like, if I have an end-to-end test, I will just navigate to the recipe search page and make sure that it's showing some recipes. I'm not going to use it to filter recipes. But in this test with V-test, I'm going to zoom in and test all the edge cases. Does it show the loading spinner and stuff like that, which is typically harder to test in end-to-end test because the spinner will disappear quickly. So you will have to interfere with the network. So here I'm just using the test bed to create the component. And so when I my test is in to do, so it's not running yet. So even if I run my test, oops. Yeah, it's better if you install the dependencies first. Good.
Wait, is P supported
last
or you did that?
I usually try to avoid using it when I do demos, but it's an alias for PNPM.
PNPM, right? Yeah. So you did that. It doesn't come out of the box.
No. But there's a package for that from like the Vite guys. It's called no, I don't remember the name of the package, but you can it's from Anthony Fu, I think, and it's a command that you just call, and you call install or whatever, and it automatically checks if it's npm or yarn or pnpm. You don't have to care.
Okay. No, that's interesting. Yeah.
Pretty nice, especially when you're doing a lot of consulting or moving from one project to another. It's pretty nice. So so here, I've been running the tests, and I didn't check the results, so my tests are all passing. This one is in to do, says okay, there's a to do, so it's not running. So one of the first things is that this is where the idea of like TDD is important, is that you have to think of the behavior you want to test. So what do you want? Like, I want to type these keywords, and then what's going to happen? And here, it's really nice to have like someone from the business sitting next to you, or if you have some requirements already written somewhere. And this is where you have like the different phases, where here I'm just loading recipes, I'm not interacting with it, so it's fine. And what I want is that I'm going to mount this component, and then I want to so my act phase is just to mount the component because I'm not interacting with it right now. And then I want to make some assertions, and I want to check that there is a burger. Check that there is a burger and a salad displayed. And the thing is, where does this burger and salad come from? So
no, we need to arrange that.
yeah, we have to arrange that exactly. So first, I could really call the backend. I could just make this API call and wait for the backend. But I'm not going to do that. It's not a common test, but that can happen. But it's better to arrange things. And here I'm gonna replace. I know that in terms of design, the recipe search is going to use a recipe repository service to fetch the recipes. So I'm going to replace the recipe repository with a test double that returns a burger and the salad. Okay, and when I do this, the problem is, how do I replace this recipe repository? Do I use spy, stub, or mock, or fake? And that's where you have like different test doubles. So that's one of the first things. But what's interesting here is that no matter what happens, if this recipe search here is calling recipe repository directly, it's gonna work. But if it's using a store here that makes the call, it's gonna work. If it's using another layer here, it's gonna work. My test is just seeing this as a black box. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So now, how do I replace the recipe repository? So the problem is that that's where you start messing around. So, well, oops, I lost connection problem. So I usually always write my tests in this way, like in English, without the arrange act assert, but just to make it clear.
Yeah.
And this way, I'm not polluted by implementation details now, and I can chat with the business and everything. And so here, the thing is, that's where the mess starts, and you're like, oh, and you can see that even like cursor wants to do this. Typically, this is typically the kind of things where you have, oops, sorry. This is really good because this is what I wanted to show. Is that you start mocking things like this. So this is actually a stub that's always returning an empty array. But what if it's actually an observable? This is not typed. I should type it and blah, blah. What if I call another method? And that's where you end up with errors in your code that say, oh, the component, the method is not there, or worse, pipe does not exist as a method because you're not returning an observable or whatever, or signal. And of course, if tomorrow I refactor this and it's returning a resource instead of returning an observable, then I will have to change all my tests. But what if instead of this, I have my repository here, okay? And instead of using the repository, what if I had repository fake? And it's the amazing thing is that you do not need any skills for this, any skills that you do not have, any skills that are specific to the framework, which means that I can use this with vtest or jest or any framework from the future. It's just working. So I just implement another the same interface. And here I have the search method, and I'm taking some shortcuts here. I'm just doing the filtering in memory, and I could add some delay if I want, and etc. And you can do whatever you want. And you don't have to implement everything. Sometimes when I implement fakes like this, I just do if max ingredients. If somebody is asking for max ingredients, then just throw not implemented. You know, and this way people have an error, will get an error that says, oh, this is not implemented. Oh, yeah, because it's a fake. Yeah, so we don't need it. I'm going to implement it.
That's interesting. That's a super interesting approach, which makes a lot of sense, especially now with AI. First, you can go think really hard about the service, the kind of repository or whatever you're implementing. You come up with the interface. Then AI can implement the fake one. And then you can write tests implementing the real one. And then you can write other tests, and the fake is already there, and it can just be used, drop in.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Exactly. That's the whole point. And the cool thing is that the pattern can be, so first you try to not mock anything. And the moment you start mocking or using test doubles, so the core of your code is here. So this is the core logic of your app or your services or whatever. And the idea is that you have like the infrastructure layer here. That's where you have your adapters, like the recipe repository.
Yeah.
And this is where you usually have fakes. And the cool thing is that all the underlying infrastructure, which is implementation details, like is it using HTTP or GraphQL or whatever, I do not care. Not my problem.
Yeah.
So this way, I'm not coupled to any framework. My tests are completely uncoupled. They don't even know what HTTP is. And so in here, that's why I have a fake for the recipe repository, because I don't want to call my backend. I don't want to mock at the HTTP level, because that would be very for specifying. So it's the right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And now I can, and at the end, I just have like this little, in the recipe repository fake, I just have like this little utility, provide function that provides the fake.
Yeah.
There's just one trick here, is that if you ask for the recipe repository, you're going to get the fake. And I'm using use existing, which is not common. And this is just like a use factory that injects this instance.
Yeah.
And the fake here is, why do I do this? This way, my tests can inject the fake directly, because the fake has methods like configure that allow the test to do whatever they want with the
yeah.
So here I can say, you know what, provide recipe repository fake, and in this test, I'm just replacing my fake with my repo with this, and I just now have to fill it. And when I inject the fake, I have the right type. The problem is, the problem is now you have to create the recipes. Everything is typed properly, so that's cool. But good luck creating the recipe. So they're like, and this is just a recipe. So imagine like a bank account or like an insurance contract or whatever. And you're like, wow, how am I going to write that? And even if you write that, how am I going to read that? So is this field important? Like if I remove this dot, is this what we're testing or not? And that makes things harder. So that's why I'm always using this object mother pattern, which is a really old pattern that's not specific to Angular or front end. So it's just a builder pattern that takes some shortcuts. Like for example, I give it just the name, and it derives the ID from the name, it derives the description and whatever. And I have like additional methods that can set up some stuff, which makes not only the tests easier to write, but it's also easier to read. So for example, if I say with basic information and with vegan ingredients, I know that the users who did it, they didn't do it just for fun. They did it on purpose because the app is filtering vegan ingredients or whatever.
Yeah,
so like, oh, okay, that's good. And it's not a builder pattern, just like if you build your objects, because it's just for testing, so you can take whatever shortcuts.
So you do create these mother objects for kind of like all the data interfaces that you are testing.
Yes, my models that are not unrelated to the ones from the backend, because that can evolve, but it's really my core models that I'm sure will not, if they evolve, it's because I want them to evolve. Not gonna be because of someone from the outside. And of course, I could wrap this in a setup function, etc. But anyway, so let's keep it verbose like this. And now, what happens if I just try to check that the burger is there and the salad is there? So before VTest, well, using the test bed was pretty hard, because you'd have to do, test bed. You have to grab the fixture. And
then you would have to do stuff like when stable and detect changes,
exactly,
and querying.
And here you have to grab the debug element, and then here you have to query all by blah blah blah, and it's pretty not ideal, and it's going into implementation detail, pretty painful. But when you're using the so before VTests, we had testing library that was created for React initially. Then it became framework agnostic, and you have a layer for Angular. And here I can directly interact with the screen, and say, okay, you know what? Expect that in the screen, I have get all by, let's say the headings, because each recipe is displayed in the recipe preview component, and it's in
Oh no,
H2.
you opened the implementation.
Yeah. You're right. Oh, that's a really good point. So that's very interesting. So sometimes it's the problem with TDD. Like you start writing your test, then you dive into the code, then you start implementing the code, and then you get back to your test. So that's the problem. But when you're writing your test, it's totally fine to write your test. Then you want to know how to query the DOM, because I'm using the real components and the recipe preview. So I don't know how to query that thing. So I will open the view, open the app to see what's happening, or open the components, and that's fine. And often you'll write your test and you will start implementing thing, and then you're going to say, oh no, I need to grab user information. So I have to fake that. I totally forgot. And that's totally fine. You cannot get things straight from the beginning. So you need that ping pong a little bit. And here, so I can say, I'm going to use get all by role. So it's a synchronous function on purpose. I'm grabbing the headings. So I'm using role because it's better to, it's more less coupled to implementation details. I don't know if it's an H2 or whatever. And here I can say, okay, expect the first heading or headings to have links to, and the first one is burger and the second one is salad. Now let's enable this test. And okay, so here I'm using Wallaby.js. That's why there were kangaroos in my posts. So Wallaby.js, well, it's free for open source, I think, and it's paying for private repos. And the cool thing is that you really have really nice integration. So you know not only the coverage, but a lot of things, like, for example, when you're debugging, you're like, oh, what's inside this variable here, for example. And let's say you have it like this, and you want to know what's happening here, and you can see the value just by hovering over it. And if you're in test or in your code, no console log, nothing. And if you add something like this, you have the value displayed next to it. So it's pretty nice. A lot of things like this where you can even see the values, for example, here. But in real life, objects are pretty complex to read. So you have like a graph like this where you can just go through the nested objects and stuff. So that's pretty cool. And but look, it's failing because testing library cannot find any elements. And this is where things become chaotic, and that's where people start doing, let's call detect changes. Let's call detect changes another time. It's not working. Or that's where you start using when stable. You're like, you know what? When stable. It's not working. Wait again. Now it's passing. How come? Well, this is because I did something on purpose. Something not that horrible. Just doing some asynchronous code, and Angular cannot catch this. And so that's the problem, is that you have to always think, is my app ready? Can I check to test things now or not? So what's better is just, instead of this, is to ask vtest to wait. And you can say, vtest, can you wait until this thing, or this could be like, you can say, get headings. It's like an arrow function.
So
you can say
it's still synchronous, but it's now a function.
I have to now I have to await.
No, I mean the get headings is still.
That's what I mean. I don't exactly. I don't have to call the asynchronous version of it from testing library, because I might be using something else. So I don't know. And here, sorry.
Nice.
And here you can see, that this is work. But the problem is that this is not using the browser. And I cannot see what's happening, and that's horrible. I'm testing the UI and I cannot see what's happening. So the buttons could be hidden, etc. I have like a story about this. Like back when it was the beginning of Flexbox in CSS,
yeah.
and we had like everything tested with Karma and Protractor at the time for the end-to-end test and everything. We were pretty happy with that, and the tests were passing. And at some point, we discovered that since an update from Chrome that was like the day before, all the products were 1 pixel high.
Oh man.
Because we messed up our flex boxes and Chrome did an update and everything was, and you know, flex boxes were very experimental at the beginning and everything was there and Protractor could find the element, but they were all like 0 pixels. So it would be nice if I could see this.
Yeah, how did you find that out?
Manually.
Okay.
Because someone I used the app like the day after or something. And I was like, what's happening here? I cannot see the element. Then I inspect the DOM and I'm like, oh, they're there.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's a big problem. So we need the UI so that we can even take screenshots and compare them and stuff like that. So I did this with expect.poll. There are other ways, but right now this is not ideal. Don't do this, but we'll see how it works. But poll can be useful when you're waiting for something to happen in a store. But now, what I would like to see, I'd like to see what's really what's happening in the UI. And again, before we continue, you see the advantage of these tests. So this test is calling. This is the executing the. Oh, you know what? Let me just try something. Here we can see.
Oh, nice.
We can see the test here, and it's this test here, and you can see that. Okay, here's what's okay. So you can see that. Oh, you see how many components I'm loading. Yeah. I'm loading the search and the add button, and the meal planner is loaded, but I'm not using it. It's loading the filter, the etc. And that's totally fine. It's really realistic. It's really loading everything. And it's still a narrow test because if the test breaks, it's really easy to debug. You know, if I go to
exactly what we did here, and
yeah, exactly. So here
I think the only time that our test in any way touches any implementation detail is the heading level thing.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
I think I thought that like the only time in this test where we touch any implementation stuff is the heading thing.
Yeah, exactly. Is that we know,
and it's just unavoidable. We have to say,
we can even
for the most part.
For the most part, but even this can be wrapped in like a harness or what I call a glove, like something that allows you to not get your test hand dirty with the implementation detail, and you can have something, and this even could be something like a recipe preview that gets titles, you know.
Something like this,
So we can have not the class, but like some glove like this.
But still on some level you would have to touch.
Yes.
But that's the only time. Everything else that we have here, we essentially, even like the poll stuff, we don't care about the implementation there.
Exactly.
Just wait until it's there.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter how it gets there, so we don't get to like, when it's stable. We're not asking the framework to do some heavy lifting. And I really love it because I think this approach kind of solves what has been an issue for many developers. I think people who are doing tests, who are writing tests routinely every day, have a bit of a too optimistic view of the world. Because I think around at least 80% of people, and that might be even conservative, of people working with Angular, with React, with whatever, are not actually writing tests.
Yeah. But it's
and a lot of people find it intimidating, especially when you are already a developer for many years and you've only heard about unit testing in Legends, and now you have to do it. You're kind of like, how am I supposed to do it? And they often just write them in the ways that they write the code. They go in a narrow way to make it work, but the tests are supposed to be a bit broader in the sense that you're not capturing the code. You're trying to make sense that the code, irrelevant how it is structured, functions.
Yes,
For the code structure, you have different tools. You have code review, you have static analysis, you have
exactly.
AI, whatever that has
Mm.
to go there and check. But tests you, I mean, obviously it's a bit of a cliche to say, but it boils down.
Yeah, but it's understandable. So the reason why people don't write
Yeah,
that many tests is it's because the first thing is that the learning curve is steep. You know, you have to think of like
yeah.
this fake pattern, and you have to be aware of like this how the
Like the
DI
beginning
works,
is
and
very
like
easy,
exactly.
but then
Oh yeah,
immediately it's
if
super
you
hard because, oh, wait, what are you doing? Why do you have the same class here and there? What are mocks?
yeah,
What
yeah.
are stubs? What's going on?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
And then there's the whole strategy thing of like how small my test should be, how big should I mock this, not
yeah,
why. And and uh but once you get that, it's an investment for life. Because like
yes,
what I'm using here, the patterns I'm using here is things that I've been using for Python for years, for C++. I mean, like
no,
it's the same thing. Okay, things have changed now. There were some times where I didn't have DI. Now we have DI, etc. But some things are easier, others might be a little bit harder, but most of the things are easier. But so that's an investment for life, and
yeah,
so that's the cool thing. And the other thing that I try to also there's a cognitive bias, which I call like the development time perception bias, is
mm,
that when you code and fix, you're super focused. You know, like you're coding the thing, it's broken.
yeah,
You add the console log, then you go back to the browser. Oh, you're signed out. You have to sign in again. Oh, I need a one-time password. Where's my phone? And then you sign in on your app.
yeah,
You're like, okay, now I can test again. It's now it's working. What? Oh, let me get back to the code. And you're super focused, so you feel that time is moving fast and that you're efficient and you're just writing production code. But you
yeah.
spend half an hour or 1 hour writing a test, and you feel it's a waste of time. You know, it's like, I only wrote a test, I didn't write any production code. But once you have the test, then look, you're refactoring, and I don't know, like, look at this. I'm changing, I'm changing this line, and my test is broken, and I can see, oh,
Yeah,
this broke a test, and I can be like, oh, can you show me which test? Oh, it's this test that's broken.
yeah,
And so this is way, way, way faster than debugging, adding console logs.
right,
As you've seen, like here, I could have I don't know, like um, this is not ideal, but I can have like the recipe fake, and see that here I can say, oh, what do I have here? And I can see the filtering, and I can see what's happening immediately because I have the right tooling, and
yeah,
etc. And I can focus on just this test. So you can see the values here. And so this is like the investment is really worth it. And you have to think of like not the in the time now, but you have to think of the long term. Like what's going to happen in 6 months? What's going to happen in
yeah.
1 year? When there'll be like turnover, when there are going to be agents just changing the code quite randomly, and
Yeah.
you want to make sure that nothing
But they are already
is
doing
broken.
that.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
Which kind of brings us to
Yes,
maybe the next topic, which is we are being bombarded with AI generated
yes,
code, and everyone has been doing it. No one, I don't trust anyone who says that they've figured out how to like completely do it correctly. And I've had issues with. We know that a lot of people skip reading the code that the agent has
yes,
generated,
yes,
and every week there is someone saying, "Oh, no, you have to do this X thing. Everything's gonna be great."
yeah,
And then 1 week later, everyone is like, "No, that doesn't work. It's dead. That approach is dead."
yeah, yeah.
So, in the essence, it's easy to come to the conclusion that
Oh,
it just doesn't work. But obviously, we are all using it. Some are using it because they love it. Some are forced to use it. Some are scared they will fall behind. And now testing is a super important part of this because, in my belief, if we are doing serious software development, right, if
yes,
we're serious engineers, if in the past, for whatever reasons, for example, we skip tests because our client didn't want it, or we have a bug, we had some other issues. We didn't have the budget, or maybe we believed it was a waste of time, or any
Yes.
belief. Now we cannot afford that because we have just now added a system that can create more and more failure points that very quickly. And now, but we can also use the same system to also kind of protect us from that. But we need to understand tests. So
Yes.
I am super curious to hear your experience and your opinion on this.
That's a really interesting point. I don't know how I tried to stop my share and then I tried to put it back. And
yeah, sure.
Do you see? Do you see my screen? Oh, okay. Then I can bring back the screen later. So because I didn't show you the browser mode yet, and we can quickly just show you the result, and then we can switch to the. So my take on the AI today is, like, as you said, like each time things go bad, like people are like, oh no, it's just because you didn't install like this 500 skills. Yeah, it's a skill issue. Yeah,
literal skill issue nowadays.
And then you have, like, say you have to install skills. Oh, you have too many skills. Oh, wait a second, your skills are not. You don't eval them. They're not evaluated, and there's a regression in the skill. Oh, wait, you should not prompt like this. Oh, the doc is not the right one. Oh, did you use spec kits? Oh, you have to set up all these documents and everything, or OpenSpec, etc. OpenSpec is more interesting though. But anyway, and no, it's because if things go wrong, it's because you didn't have everything right at the first step. And you're like, listen, we're going back to waterfall again, and we're leaving incremental and agile, even though agile word is horrible, but I mean, like how it drifted, how people are using the agile term today. But anyway, but the problem is, okay, we all agreed that waterfall doesn't work. And kind of all of us. But then now that things are going faster with agents, we're going back to waterfall. But it's going just in the same direction, but just fast. So that's a good thing, which means that before, when you would go with waterfall, you would spend 1 week writing specs, and then you'd hire a team, and you would give it to the team, and then they will tell you, come back in 6 months. Then you come back in 6 months, and come back in another 6 months, and then you have it. Now you write your specs for 1 week, or you generate the specs, which is like hiring another team doing spec. Anyway, so you have to find the right balance. And then and the agent is like, I'm going to take care of this. Just come back in 10 minutes. Then you come back in 10 minutes. They're like, come back in 10 minutes. Oh, I have a question. 10
minutes nowadays is conservative.
I'm very conservative on that. And the cost is becoming, I'm really curious about this, because of course the cost will get lower and lower, but again, the frontier models are expensive. One really good example is how Cloud Code is saying, if you use the team mode, where you can like pop multiple agents that communicate between each other, like use Sonnet. Don't use frontier models like Opus, because it's going to be very, very expensive, And then I'm like, so I'm intrigued about that, like, because the task that you're given to these agents are not small tasks, so they can drift. And in the dog, they say, they can drift, so you have to watch them. And I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is that the workflow is that I just have to have lots of skills, lots of guardrails everywhere, and aim for some targets, and then hope for the best. And
at the end, you become an AI developer. At some point.
And it's just like
a piston harness developer.
Exactly. But the way I see it is, I see it just like I don't make any difference today between agentic development and traditional development. I just see that agents are like humans, and with different properties, but it's the same problems that appear again. And meaning that agents should communicate between each other. They should try to find agreement, blah, blah. But the problem is that I don't want to micromanage them. So that's one of the things. And I don't want to go into tunnels for 1 hour or 1 day and then come back and it's not the right results and then try again. Like I've dropped, I don't know about everyone watching, about you. Like I spent so much time and money on things that I was waiting for, and then it generated, and it's not the right thing, so just throw it out. And so I don't like the approach. So that's why I think any approach should still mimic what extreme programming as a methodology has been doing. So for those who are not familiar with extreme programming is just like Scrum, but the main difference is that Scrum just threw away all the important things that are like the practices like TDD and the pair programming and collective ownership, and focused on stuff that they can sell to middle management, like ceremonies and sprint planning and blah blah blah. So there are some interesting things in Scrum, but anyway, it was a business and it still is a business, but now it's safe, the business. But anyway, so extreme programming is really focused on like some core values like simplicity and everything, and some practices like TDD and refactoring. And one of the values is courage. And there are two things of courage. There's the first kind of courage is you keep going, and the other kind of courage is you have to know when to give up.
I absolutely agree with that.
And so that's the whole thing. Also, when you're like doing all these things, you have to go into something incremental, try different things, throw them away, and try stuff. So how do I mimic extreme programming with agents? And even before agents, I do a similar approach that I call charted coding, because I write a chart, but it's just like when you navigate, when you're sailing, you cannot just say, oh, the boat is ready, let's leave and let's see where we go. No, you cannot go random like that. You have to have a plan. You have to have like the food that you need. Then you have to know about the weather, or if there's a storm coming, etc. So you have to have a plan, but not a strict plan. You cannot stop with like hundreds of lines of specs. That's not gonna work, because it's, again, like if you come up with the plan, of course there are gonna be bad surprises, things that you missed. And
also things that would just change your opinion. Like,
exactly.
You will see a type of button and then we'll say, no, this is just, it's the correct button that I asked, but now I see that it's actually the wrong one.
Exactly. So that's where the weather changes and you have to adapt your route and you have to change the route. And you cannot start from the beginning. You have to have checkpoints. You're like, okay, now we're safe. Now what do we do? Let's continue. Let's get back home. And so first thing is, in extreme programming, we do spikes. So what are spikes? Spikes are like just exploration. They're not even proof of concepts. You're just messing around with APIs and you see how it works, so to get like a better understanding of things. So the cool thing with agents is that vibe coding is amazing for this. So you can just vibe code stuff that we'll throw away, but you will learn from the vibe coding. So do that. Don't even go with spec kit or OpenSpec for the spike. Just vibe code. You're like, oh, Claude or Cursor or whatever, generate this, or Gemini, generate an app that, not an app, a little script that does this. And then you will run the script and like, oh, compressing videos is slow, actually. Interesting. I didn't think that. You will observe something. And then you go with TDD. But before writing your test, you have to have like quite a good picture of where you're heading. And I used to do this approach of writing a design doc first. I'm not even talking about like the requirements and all that things that are always exists in teams in different ways. It's going to be like an issue in some project management tool or whatever. And the first things that I write like a design doc, but the design doc is really light, really structured in a way that is pretty tiny, and that really focuses on the goals and on the techniques and everything. Some implementation details that you learned from the. You can have like different docs, etc. But I like to have just one design doc and everything is there, and just for that feature that I'm working. So let me show you how it works. Do you still have some time, or because we're over time a little bit?
I won't leave until I see everything you want to show.
Oh, good. Oh, I have so many things I want to show. Wow, I cannot share my screen. Do you see it when I share like this?
Wait, I have to. Yeah, I had to click somewhere.
Oh, okay, good. So we're here. Oh, by the way, I didn't finish this. So usually, just before. just run the test. Just wanted to show you this because I didn't have time to finish it. So, so as you can see, the cool thing here when you're using the browser mode approach with VTest is that you really see the components displayed,
nice.
and you can even interact with it, and etc. So that's the thing that I was referring to. And the thing that I changed in my tests that we didn't finish is that when I interact with the when I interact with the element with the view, I'm using VTest browser. I don't need testing library anymore, and they have like this adapter called user event, which is pretty nice. And so that if you have existing tests, you can migrate pretty easily. And they have like also a page API, just like the one from Playwright. And so here's the test. See how it looks. So I'm filtering BOR, and I have burger, etc. So it's pretty straightforward. So now let's get back to this little parentheses here. So my test is passing, and everything is fine. And now I want to write like another feature, and here's how I work. So I have this app, and I'm not. So it's the exact same one. Like I have the search, and I search recipes, and I can filter. It's exactly the same thing, basically. And there's a search recipe, blah blah blah. Problem is there's no pagination. I want to add pagination. So I could just, for such a feature, just vibe code it and like generate 3 versions of pagination, and I can learn from that. But I want to control all the code because I want to understand the code I'm generating. So I want to go with baby steps. I'd rather be slower, but at least I'm going to be faster and cheaper later when I have a problem.
I just cannot say enough how I agree with you, because that's the same for me. I tried doing this whole big plans with a lot of stuff mentioned and feed it to the agent, then come back like 2 hours later, and it kind of works, but then I slowly discover different places where it drifted, and I don't know, should I throw it everything and start over, or should I start asking the agent go there, and go there, and the code is also kind of like I don't like it.
Exactly. I still don't have a name for that, but I feel that's what's happening a lot today with all the agentic workflows is that for 20% of the costs, you have like 80% of the feature, but you get the last 20%, it costs 80%, and it's very expensive. And I figured, like, for example, I have like some little apps I create for myself, and I just vibe code them or have some specs and whatever, and I don't care, because if it's broken, I just throw it away and I start something else. But also on some, I've observed some teams, and what happens sometimes, they generate code, and beyond the risks of losing control, security problems, and blah blah blah, the problem is that sometimes you move forward and you follow the agent to some stage where you lose control, which is still okay, and at some point the agent loses control too. And the thing doesn't work, and nobody can fix that.
I had a super interesting case with that. As I mentioned briefly, I am doing a little bit of machine learning stuff too. So I tried it, which was something that was essentially an experiment. I took a very small LM, I believe something from Liquid AI, which is like 350 million parameters, not even billion, and tried to make it do a very, very narrow test, essentially like extraction of some JSON parameters from text. That's why I did some fine-tuning, stuff like that, and tried to put it into a small desktop app. Again, all of this is just an experiment. And obviously the app is vibe coded, but I put a bit more heart into it. Like we did a lot of interesting plans, and I checked it a lot, and there are some tests written for it. And I had this issue when I first, I fine-tuned this small model. I ran it on my CPU. It's super small. It runs very fast on the CPU.
Wow, nice.
And it works fine. And I see that I have like 100 testing evaluation examples, and it kind of works around in a minute, all of them. And I'm like, sure, each one of them is sub 1 second performance. Great, it's good. And then I asked Claude, like, okay, wire this up, put it into Llama CPP, wire it up with the app so that I can type in the app, and then I will see the JSON and will show something in the UI. And it works, but I noticed that it's slow. It's like 4 seconds, 5 seconds. It's just unacceptable. Like, man, we're trying this super hard. It works.
The whole
Why
thing.
is it slow? And Claude is like, oh, okay, we can try flash attention, we can try this stuff. And again, I'm not a super big expert on the AI stuff. I know some of these things are super new. So Claude, please explain to me, how does this work? What does it? And it's super deep in some level that I just cannot already understand. And Claude already surrenders. I don't know. We tried all of these things. Maybe this is the limit of your machine. And I'm saying, but bro, it's already working. It cannot be a limit. And then at some moment, I noticed that when I type that stuff on my desktop app, on the actual app, I notice a small flickering, and I see that there is some intermediate result after I finish typing. And I'm like, wait. I go back, I check the application log. I ask Claude to add some logs on the actual like inference that's done in the backend.
Yeah.
And then I see that when I type, it does a lot of requests. And I said, wait. Did you do a debounce there? We discussed.
Oh, it was.
It did a debounce, but Claude's idea of debounce time was 150 milliseconds.
Oh.
So as I was typing, it was sending a lot of requests, and obviously they got into a sort of queue, and they worked fast, but they were doing each one after another.
A lot of useless ones.
My final result was obviously took longer, and Claude, for the life of it, could not find it because it was the model is working slowly. I have to find it there. It's found different approaches, different things that were not the problem. The front end was the problem, actually.
Really amazing. Really good example. Yeah, really good example, because you're like, okay, this is going to be easy, so it cannot go wrong. And the problem is that
you end up in one situation that is killing you.
Yeah. And as you're not going step by step, like, because it's generating a lot of code at some point, like it's boom, not working. You don't know at all where it comes from. Yeah, I see. Yeah. Oh, horrible. Really good example. Might use it. Might refer to it. Thanks. And so here's the thing. So I want to add pagination. So if you just start prompting, it's going to be, very, very slow, and just wait, and then you throw a die. But so what I'm doing is that I created like this skills for my like workflow that I call charted coding, that you can integrate it in other workflows. It's because it's not creating that many files or anything. It's not very opinionated on the structure, but on the workflow, it's more opinionated. So the first thing is that you start with the design, and you're like, what do you want? I want to add pagination. And here I can use a really cheap and fast model. You don't need a frontier model because you're going with baby steps. So, and it's less context, so the model is more efficient. And
well, I can say, you know what, Composer 2 is a fine-tune of Kimi K 2.5, which in my opinion is a frontier model.
It is.
It's just cheap, which is good.
yeah, that's true. But it's fast. For me, it's more of the speed. But indeed, it has really amazing results. But I could have used Composer 1.5 or even Gemini 3 Flash.
Have you tried GLM 5.1?
No.
It's really good.
Really?
Their subscription plans are a bit sketchy. They're like a bit like Claude in terms of you have this much usage, but then it turns out that this much is kind of not well defined. But the model is super good. Actually, I think it was the first one to beat Sonnet on benchmarks, from the open source.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, nice. I use it regularly. So I use mostly Claude and GLM5. But Kimi and Minimax are also good ones. I love how many cool open source models are now out there.
It's free. It's free. Well, I should try more of them with the workflow, because one of the bets that's in charted coding is that it's you're monitoring everything, but you're always in the loop. But it's way cheaper, and you don't need like very complex you don't need frontier models, so you can really use
Yep.
it's a workflow that could work with a local model. You cannot. I don't think you could use Cloud Code with the Teams workflow, or you have like different agents communicating with a local model. I mean, like it all depends on your machine. So anyway, so the first thing is that this skill is an interview that will structure the design doc. So you can use it in plan mode, so you can interact with it like this, but I don't use it with plan mode because I don't want it to because with plan mode, it's not going to write the spec of the design doc. I use it like this without plan mode so that it can start writing the document as I'm responding to the questions.
Yeah.
So I don't have like the buttons in cursor. It's not very nice, but it works. So here it says, oh, so what's your goal? So this is very important. It's what's the problem you're trying to solve. So this is actually coming from your requirements, and this is important to keep later. It's not about the technical details of what you're going to do. It's not how you're going to do it. It's why are you going to do this. And so the first thing is like, what's the thing? Question for you, probably what's the things that, huge list. And huge list. I'm just responding to this. See how it goes. And blah, blah. And here, it started creating like this. Then I'll say, that matches what you want. Outcome. Yeah, good. I'm just going fast so that we can have something. But usually you have like a really interactive, so you're not just paralyzing work. And the good thing,
this is the part where you really have to think. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And this is this is the kind of things that you have to do as a team. So this is a workflow that I've been doing before agents with teams I've been coaching, where we work we realize that a good number is 2 or 3 people. More doesn't work. So 2 or 3 people working on this, and you're like, what's the problem? And the first thing is the goals. Then you have to figure out the non-goals. Then the desired behavior. What's the behavior you want? The non-goals are very important. This is typically a guardrail for for humans and agents. They're like, don't do this. Yeah. It's not your inner goal, because sometimes you start implementing and you do something and you add.
It's also a hard thing.
Yeah, because you're working on it and you go.
Everything is a non-goal, obviously, but there are ones that we probably have to mention.
Yeah, exactly. You have to like things that can feel that where you can feel that people will probably, or especially machines, will probably make the mistake, especially when things are naturally beautiful or exciting to do. And you're like, it's gonna be more expensive to implement, because that's also a thing that I focus a lot on, and it's got even worse with agents, is software development is not about the cost of implementation, is about the cost of maintenance, which I don't see as a debt or whatever. It's a rent. Hey, Lars. And so it's a rent that you have to pay. And the upfront money is the implementation is negligible compared to the whole maintenance that you're going to have in the future. So it's better to keep the scope always limited. So at the end, I have a design doc like this. And it says, okay, don't implement infinite scroll. Don't make page size configurable, because that's what comes. This is usually what comes with UI libraries. They have this, and you're like, oh, I'm going to enable the option. It's nice. Don't cache previous pages. We'll figure it out. And the desired behavior is, I want this and this. And let's read this like this. And here's the design. It's going to work like this. The arcs will have to, the types. And this is the things where like you're working as a team. And each one is like the agents might be doing some research, and you as humans, you're also like doing some research, and you're like, oh, we have to think of this, we have to refactor this, maybe this time it's a good opportunity. Oh, here's the function, we could reuse the function like this, and you copy paste the function there. And then you have like this design doc. So I have like some rules, some in the skills, I have some well, it depends on your visualizer, but anyway. So I have some rules that say, okay, between parentheses, it's the output, the recipe form emits like a recipe filter output, and the recipe search component will have like the signal, blah, 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 and recipe repository. Well, you can make up your design. And then what is and some implementation details here's where I put like a lot of just code IDs that we have. And the testing strategy this is where you have to be super thorough. And this is the thing that you have really. So that's why I do not use any workflow that generates all the tests at some point at once.
Yeah.
Like when I use this workflow, it asks me, it's like, I think of this scenario, this scenario, this scenario. Okay, write the first one. Okay, it writes the first one. You read it. Okay, have an offset. Makes sense. Previous button is disabled. Next test. Okay. And this is going to be a test on just the paginator components. Okay, that's good. And this is what's going to happen. And the recipe search components, this is you want to test that the recipe search component works with the paginator. So, okay, when I click, this happens. When I click back, this happens. When nothing happens, there's a spinner, etc. when it's loading, etc., etc. And then you have a PR plan. Well, this one is like it's like the task list. I just call it like a PR plan because it's important for these to be different, like PR, so that we can review them and keep the reviews cheap and easy. So, for example, one of the first PRs is just the scaffold things. The scaffolding is just the foundations where you just add empty classes. Nothing changes. No behavior changes. You just have new classes that throw not implemented error. You generate the libraries, etc. It's super easy to review. So that's the next is not polluted, and that's it. And then you have alternatives considered, and the kitchen sink is throw all your stuff. This is from Alex, who was from the Indirect team, or that we had a chat about design docs, and so he always at Google they were using like this kitchen sink thing where you just put whatever stuff, temporary stuff that you have there, and then from here, so I just call. I choose the PR that I want to work on, and I'm like, okay, let's scaffold the PR1. And the scaffolding is, this could be just like one little commit that just, let's see the changes. Okay, so here, look at this. It's just created all the empty stuff. So I just have, my components,
inputs, outputs,
etc. And it's work in progress. I call this replication. Replication is you duplicate stuff which is work in progress. And
why?
Because you don't want. I don't want anyone to use it by mistake.
Got it.
So if someone imports the paginator here,
I will see that it's deprecated. Got it. That's interesting. Never thought about using that.
Yeah, and it's really useful because now I can merge this in the main. It's really nice. It's really nice because I can merge this in the main branch. I can deploy it. It's no problem. So that you have like this continuous deployment without any continuous integration without problem. And then this is the interesting one. I have my tests generated with just plain English.
Yeah.
Right. And here, so what I'm gonna do is that here, so this is wait a second. No, paginator spec. And look at this. Now I can just reset my session, and I can, and you see each time I have like new tiny little context, no pollution. And I'm like, now don't focus on the design doc anymore. Forget about it. Narrow down your thoughts just on this behavior here. And I'm like, charted red, paginator, and so red is make this test, write this test, write a failing test, but just one, just this first one. So
interesting if this workflow plugin is available, for example, for like open code. I also like enjoy using open code.
What's open code? It's like the VS Code fork where the
terminal app open
it's
code.
A terminal app. Oh, I never used that.
Not only terminal, it's also VS Code.
There's the VS. Okay.
It's really good. That's where I use the open source models usually.
Yeah, but
because it has all sort of connectors.
But the cool thing is that this, you could just use it right away because it's gonna work because it's just skills. And
right.
So you just install it and it's up and running. So I can share this
I will be,
in the chat.
Yeah. Sure, I will share the link on the stream too. I am definitely going to try this tomorrow with OpenCode and
Let me know.
Something with GLM, yeah.
And the cool thing is that each step is completely independent because you don't have to go through the whole workflow in the right order. You can do just this. I don't know why it's taken so long. Usually it's really instant.
It's normal, yeah.
It's there is I think it's the caching. Okay. Usually it works because lots of things are cached. Anyway, so hopefully not good. Let's try with Composer. Is Composer 1.5 faster?
You know which model is consistently super fast, which I appreciate a lot?
Which one?
Gemini Flash.
Flash, yeah.
I won't say other things. Although I'm super cool with Gemini because it's the only model that actually talks normally in Armenian. No other model is even close. Like lots of them are behind on like multilingual stuff. I mean, I'm not using Armenian for coding, but that's my native language. I live in Armenia. So from time to time, I need to speak my own language, and Gemini is good with that.
Oh yeah, actually, it doesn't mix up.
Yeah, and Claude Opus 4.6 up to 4.6 actually broke on Armenian characters.
Oh,
it literally couldn't answer.
Whoa, okay.
4.7, yeah, is the first model that can answer, but it's very bad in Armenian. I don't know about other languages, but yeah, Armenian for me is like quite a good test because it's a relatively not super popular language.
Yeah. But the problem with models is that, like, I don't think there are many models that really are trained on a language. There are really a few, but most of them just do the translation and translation back, to compare the vectors.
I think, yeah, a lot of them are kind of done in that way, but I don't believe Gemini is working in that way because I mean, it's not based on anything that I kind of know. It's more based on the way that I see that it can kind of switch between, like it can do, for example, if it can do chain of thought in Armenian, and it doesn't need to kind of figure out, okay, this means that in Armenian, it can do a bit of that stuff in another language. I believe that it is capable of, like, it doesn't translate under the hood and start doing it in English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So anyway, I've used Flash, so it was fast, but the problem is that it's not what I like. But it's good because, for example, one of the guardrails is that you only write one test, you don't write the second one. I want to implement them one. It did two, and I just don't want to test other buttons. It's just testing that this button is disabled. Anyway, so now my favorite part. This is the thing that I'm using all the time. So here I'm using Wallaby. Wait, I have to. So it's a different version, I think, on this branch. So I just have to different vtest version. So I have to reset the cache. And look at this. So Wallaby.js and how's it going? So Wallaby.js, okay, working. So Wallaby.js has this amazing thing called Wallaby. Sorry, I was just watching. Why is this not working?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think it's just TS server because it's different version. So anyway, so Wallaby.js has an MCP server.
Okay.
So the agent can ask the MCP server of Wallaby if the status of the test. It's very different from all the MCP servers that you have around testing that run the tests each time the agent asks, because that's very slow. Wallaby runs the test each time there's a change and exposes the report to your agent. So it's instant.
Right.
And what is amazing is that the MCP agent not only tells you if the test is passing or not and what's the error, but the agent can also ask, what's the value of this variable here,
Right.
And it can ask for this variable, and Wallaby can tell you, oh, the value is 42 at runtime, That helps debugging, and that's like adding runtime values of your test to the context, which is pretty
super useful,
pretty cool. So now I enable the test, or I could let the agent do it. You can see that the test is broken, so that's good. And now I can ask, let's try Composer again, and now I can say, please, charted green, make this test pass. And this is like one of my favorite parts. Make sure that yes here, and you can see. Let's work this time. I think there's a problem with the Composer today.
Could be.
It's weird that it stays here for so long. Thinking.
Man, this is something that I actually experience a lot. I'm not using Cursor. I'm using either Cloud Code or Open Code, and with Cloud Code, I often experience that it would show thinking, nothing. Then, like an hour later, you open the thinking tab, and there is no chain of thought, and you're like, "Bro, are you there?
What's happening?" Yeah. And. It's usually way faster. That's why the demo is cool, because you never wait to just run, and it's just like pretty instant. But that's the problem also with determinism here. Oh, nice, we can see. Anyway. So, well, that's too bad. Let's try with Composer 1.5. Maybe there's just a problem with Composer 2 today. It's sad because Composer 2 has better results. Oh, you know what? It's too slow. Gemini 3. Flash.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway. Oh, sorry. No. So the cool thing here is that with the feedback loop of Wallaby, you get like usually you see it checks that the test if the test was passing, and what are the failing tests. And here it tells you which test is failing. Now it's enabled the test. Now it's going to try to fix it. You can see the test is failing. You see? Now it's done. And the test is green, and that's it. And you're done.
Nice.
And so the cool thing is just have all these steps that are really straightforward, and you control the whole code. It's agentic, but for example, this was a lot of pain to a lot of rules, very strict rules that say do not implement any other thing that is not in the test. So it only implements what's asked for in the test. It doesn't implement the next button because it's not, this test does not need it. So you can really go progressively, and this way you don't. One of the big problems I feel in most agentic workflows is that you end up multitasking, and I think that most humans are not good at multitasking because it's not.
We are not really built for that, are we?
We're not built for that. So there is a cost of switching, And so this way you stay focused on the feature. It's step by step. You're not catching up after the agent. When the agent's just generating code and is trying to review things like, oh, I'm not following anymore. And you can commit these changes, and CodeRabbit or other people could review, or other machines can review, and there are also other tools with chart coding. There's also the review task, which is not a review of the code; it's a review of the design doc. So it creates multiple sub agents with different skills, like. There's an extreme programming coach that tries to simplify things, etc. And then it's compares the results, makes sure that there's no IDs that are competing, and
No.
they find a
Yeah.
consensus, and you can apply whatever you want. You can pick whatever you want to the design doc. So the thing here, the idea is that you just go step by step with your test, and you can choose the size of the step. Like for example, I decided here to just go test by test, but you could go with like a whole
Yeah.
feature because it's simple,
Yep.
or it could go like with multiple tests and in the file, etc. And the amazing thing is really the integration with Wallaby, because as you've seen, like with even with Gemini Flash, the result was pretty cool, and I don't have anything to touch here.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's what I wanted to share.
You know what? Younes, I'm completely sold on this. Tomorrow, I'm definitely going to try this out myself.
Nice.
I have been I've been trying to kind of like discipline myself to do it this way, and also because I'm not super experienced again with writing proper tests for my apps. Usually, me trying, I was like, yeah, sure, I need to use tests. AI can help me write tests faster. But I usually ended up in a situation where Claude, please write this test, and then it would write whatever test it wanted, and then
Yeah.
I tried to find a different pace. But this way, I will be kind of doing it in a pace that is both comfortable to me and also kind of forced in terms of like I have to do the steps, but also I like the steps, the amount of the steps, and how I can choose to go through them.
Yeah. And you can jump or
And
what? Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely going to try this. Maybe even next time when I'm doing live coding, probably I will be doing it using
Cool.
this. Yeah, absolutely love it.
Let-
I'm actually
let-
gonna show my coworkers this tomorrow.
Nice. Well, let me know. Let me
Yeah.
know. Let me know how it
Yeah.
goes. I'm still missing some things because I still want to add charted coding to workflows like
Mhm.
OpenSpec, where you can like integrate it as a plugin there. You can just use it like this, or you can. For me, it's not like a workflow, or well, charted coding is more like of a process for the team, because
Yeah. Yeah.
there are also other aspects. Like for example, all these changes, I do them as what I call a chorus of people working on the
Mhm.
same branch.
Yeah.
So there's
No.
also other
Mhm.
other aspects beyond the AI. So, but the idea is, it's the idea of like how TDD can help. The only thing that is very important, even if you don't use these skills, is that you have to add a lot of guardrails to tell your agent, please do not touch the test. And this
Yeah.
is very important, that when you enable because one of the things that I've been observing is that even when you ask agents to do TDD, they write the tests, and when they start implementing something, they change the the test so that the test
Yeah.
passes. So they behave like humans.
If you go deep enough, you can find ways of not allowing them to actually touch those
Yeah,
files.
that's
Agents can do whatever, but harness we can control.
yeah.
That's
But
been
there,
a super hard thing in general for me when we're trying to build our own agents. Not for coding. Thankfully, we have never attempted to build the coding harness. I believe it's an actually super challenging task, and there's already so much of those. A lot of them are super great, but yeah, it's a hard thing. But in terms of
yeah.
those conventions in that sense work, like if you
Yeah.
have spec.ts and you
Yes.
have a skill working, then you can just programmatically for that specific
Yeah.
skill, if you are doing this sort of like make the test pass,
Yeah.
then they are not allowed to, like
Yeah.
they
You could
never
have
added that file.
like
Yeah.
you could even have like this validation script that does that. But the
Yeah.
thing is, the reason why it doesn't always work is that some changes make sense.
Yeah.
If like
But yeah, in that case, if it was
yeah,
not unable to fix it, then we can like you can try it several times and maybe like
exactly,
escalate to
exactly.
the
So
developer. Like I
and,
couldn't fix this. Maybe the test is wrong or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. So for me, the rule is what we apply to us as humans is try not to touch the test as much. Like don't rethink the test while you're implementing the
Yeah.
thing, except
Yeah.
if you discovered something which is important, then you have to step back. And the other thing is never implement something when you're coding that's not covered by a test. and that's also the agents tend to add things that are not under test. So, and with these rules, and this is what the kind of things that are embedded in these skills, it can really help you think more of this. And the interesting thing is that each step you can commit and share this with push code and have like Code Rabbit going through it, or discuss this with other developers. And it's not like an agent just working for 1 hour and then you have this huge thing that not understandable.
That's the worst part of this, and finding a good pace and finding a tool that will actually kind of enforce that in a way, and an approach that will be acceptable for many people, if not for all at least.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
We did 2 hours, you know.
Yeah. I told you.
No, it was.
You have to time box me.
Super interesting.
We did like 2 topics into one.
We have recurrent guests, so you are always welcome.
Thank you.
Think Rainer appeared 2 times.
Okay.
Someone else also appeared 2 times. I can't remember. We had a lot of guests.
Nice.
Before we go, let me just quickly check. I think we have 2 or 3 questions.
Yes.
Maybe not questions, but requests for comment, because an hour ago, even more than that, Logan said, can we talk about the influx of downloads for the VTest package versus Jest? And then he said that the funny part... it's higher up. I'm sharing it on the screen. The funny part is that there is an influx of downloads on older VTest versions. Is that true? And why that might be the case?
Yeah. That's surprising though, but yes, I guess, I don't know. Really good. Why would that happen? I don't know. I have no clue.
Maybe it's the Angular 9 version situation. You know about
that?
Yeah. Maybe it's some sort of thing going on there too.
It can be that, or it can be... I have to check something. You know, there is Evalite, which is like LLM evaluation framework, so that you can evaluate your non-deterministic things.
Yeah, like agent output.
Like agent output. And things like that. It's using VTest, and there's this wrapping VTest. So maybe it's using VTest.
It could be, yeah.
You know,
it's
good. I don't know. I didn't check if it's using VTest 3 or 4. But yeah, that's one of the things that can happen.
And maybe Ole is asking, that component in the VTest is great. Is it similar to Storybook? I think the browser thing is what he refers to.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. Because in Storybook, it's actually still using what I call partial browser mode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's calling, like, with the interactions, it's user event that click blah blah. So it's triggering the events programmatically in the browser. But when you're using the Playwright provider, it's and that's what I've been using, like at the end, when you import things from VTest/browser. Then VTest is really calling Playwright, and it's really interacting through Chrome DevTools protocol. When you click a button, the button is covered, you get an error and things like that. So that's pretty cool. And when you're using Storybook, I think this is possible, but the problem is that I don't think it's the first thing that is documented. So that's why. Yeah. So you could achieve this, I think, with Storybook. I don't remember, because I checked that recently, and I don't remember if it works, because I wanted to know if it works or not. But the main thing is that, again, for me, I don't believe in Storybook as a testing solution for multiple reasons. One of them is that you don't want all your components to be in Storybook, so you don't want to have like 3 ways of testing. Second problem is that it's pretty challenging, because VTest with Playwright is already a little bit challenging in terms of integration, because you have VTest over Playwright. So sometimes you call some
Mm.
APIs and you have to go to Playwright docs and you're like, oh, this should happen. But oh no, VTest is wrapping it a little bit differently. Oh, so it's not working exactly the same. Now you have Storybook that's adding a layer. And so whenever you have like new options in VTest, you might not get them automatically in Storybook. So it's more set up and you'll always be like in some weird configuration. So yes, it's basically the same thing. The only thing that I'm not pretty sure is that if you can easily have the Playwright provider, and I think you can, but I don't want to say anything wrong here. I can check that pretty quickly. But
Lars said hi, and I didn't want to interrupt you because it was super interesting. But hey, Lars, if you're still watching, how are you doing?
Yeah, that's when I said, "Hey, Lars, I seen that."
Yeah, man, this was super interesting, and I don't regret 1 second on staying for two hours on this. I learned a lot, and I think now I feel more up to speed with all the testing things. I miss a lot of stuff, and kind of what I knew about testing Angular apps changed. It drifted to a better place, and I was a bit stuck in the past. And I was thinking we also discussed a bit of the past things that are now not the same. We have better ways of doing stuff, and
and that's the cool thing is that by using, especially now that you have like VTest with browser mode and the whole layers to interact with the DOM and even other approaches, the cool thing is that when you test Angular or any other framework, it should not feel that different. You know, should not care about anything except dependency injection and providing stuff. But you've seen I didn't even here. I'm using like my own wrapper, but whatever. I'm never using the fixture. Like I don't even have to know what's the components fixture. Like there really almost no. There's almost no use case for that. You know. So yeah, I don't know if there's the Playwright. I don't know if there's the Playwright support for in VTest. Cannot have like this. Yeah. Anyway, in the Storybook. Sorry, just checking the DOM. Anyway, so yeah, thanks. So I'm curious about how it goes for you with the chart coding, and I'm really looking for any feedback.
I'm definitely I will keep in touch. I will keep you posted on how it goes, because I have a small team now. There are 3 of us, or 2.5, depending on one of the guys switching on another project and coming back. So it would be good for me to keep an eye on how it goes for them too, how easily they adopt it, and try it out and see how it goes. But I liked it. I believe it is going places, I think.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for watching.
And I just have one last little thing. If I have like this, if I may, I have like my I have like a Angular testing video course.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And the thing that I've put here, like I put a link where there's a feedback, a form where you can like people can say what they're challenged with and etc. And they can opt in for to participate to win like a video course. So given people will watch this later, I will probably run the poll like in 1 month or something, and so we can
already shared.
Thanks.
Guys, everyone watching, you should check out all the stuff that's out there.
And I put the links to like the cookbook or like all the content out there.
Nice. Thanks everyone, and see you on the next one.
See you. Thank you all for kidnapping you for 2 hours. Sorry for that.